Why does God allow evil? How can the Bible be true if it has so many contradictions? How can a loving God send people to hell? These are questions I've struggled with in the past few years. And in that struggling, I've had seasons in which I've doubted my faith. There's questions I'm wrestling with even now. Doubt is present in many Christians' lives. But so often when we doubt, we feel like bad Christians. But what if I told you that doubt can actually be a good thing? James 1:2-4 says, "Count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." Now, the audience that James is writing to was facing severe persecution. These early Christians were being imprisoned and even killed for following Jesus, and they were beginning to crack under the pressure. And that's why James tells them to be steadfast. Most of us in the Western world will never face this kind of persecution, but the principle James is speaking to can still be applied to our lives today. Our faith is tried in a different way. The 21st century post-Christian culture that we live in is corrosive to faith. Every day we hear alternative narratives about what truth is and how we should be living. And as we begin to interact with people living out those alternative narratives, we begin to doubt our own. When we face doubts, our faith in God is tested. But we don't need to be afraid of this testing. James says we can take joy because this testing produces a steadfast perseverance that makes our faith stronger. 1 Peter uses the metaphor of our faith being tested the same way that gold is purified. Gold is held in the fire and any impurities are burnt away. So when we're held in the fire, how do we stand strong? How do we make sure that our doubts lead us to more faith instead of causing us to lose it altogether? I have two pieces of advice for those who are doubting. First off, talk about your doubts. By talking about your doubts, you're doing two things. First off, you're facing your doubt. Sometimes just talking out loud helps me process and understand what I'm thinking more clearly. I've wrestled with doubts that I haven't realized are silly until I tell a friend about it. Talking keeps you from becoming isolated. So often, people doubt and they fear what other people will think of them, so they bottle it up. But this isolation is dangerous. When you're isolated, you're more susceptible to the lies of Satan. You don't realize that other people doubt too, and you don't stop the thought spirals. Talk about your doubts. Number 2, talk to the right people. What I mean by the right people is people who are more experienced in their faith than you. This could be your parents, your pastors, your small group leaders, someone who's been down the road that you're on and made it out the other side. So often when I doubt, I only talk to people who've already walked away from the church. And these people are only going to reinforce the doubts in my head. Not that there's anything wrong with talking to people who aren't Christians, but make sure you're getting both sides. Romans 10 verse 17 says, "Faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ." Let people speak truth over you so you can combat the lies. Let other people's faith carry you through a dark season. Talk to the right people. Even if you aren't struggling with doubt yourself, you can still help. The best thing that the church can do to help those struggling with doubt is cultivate a community where it's safe to struggle, where it's safe to bring your doubts and your questions, and you'll still be welcomed and loved. Too often in Christian culture, we get fearful of doubters and we push them away. We think it's immature or dangerous to doubt. But this causes those who are struggling to feel that they can't express their doubts. And they will find places where they can. More people than we realize doubt within the church. But so many feel that they can't be vulnerable for fear of rejection. This is a struggle for those in church leadership. Your pastor likely goes through seasons of doubt, but because we think doubting is bad, we force them to cover up and pretend. By creating a safe space to doubt, we can enter into the conversation and speak truth and love over those who are struggling. Doubt is scary, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. God will strengthen your faith if you push into your doubt rather than running and hiding. At the end of the day, we have to remember, our goal is not certainty. There's no proof that your beliefs are correct. Our goal is faith. Let your doubt lead you to faith.